Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of Kouryer podcast. Today, I'm joined with Alessia. She's a landscape architect and freelance illustrator from Italy. And could you please give us a little introduction on how you got into visual arts and design?
Okay, so hi everyone, and as you said before, I'm a landscape architect, let's say, and I started to draw since I was a little girl from the countryside of Italy. So I started to represent what I see in my surroundings, let's say. And my father was actually a painter, so it's something that I think it's in my blood. And I started to draw digitally when I started to study in the university, and my uncle decided to give me a digital tablet because when old people start to buy things and then they don't use that anymore, they decided to give everything away to people around them. So he wanted to give his digital tablet to me, and that's why I'm here. Like 6-7 years later, I have my Instagram account and I'm drawing, let's say, drawing everything I feel, everything I want, and show that to the world.
All right. And were you originally studying art and design, or you were pursuing another career path?
I started to study some science-related subjects. Then in the university, I chose to do architecture. Then later, I moved to the landscape architecture, and the visual art, the art part is something that I always related to as an hobby. Let's say never done anything related to the study part about that part of my life. Let's say.
All right. What is your main branch of design that you're focusing on? And tell us about your experience from the start till now on it.
When I decide what I want to illustrate, I usually find my resources online, but not for pose or for having inspirations, but to see the colors of the things. Let's say, because my style, I want my style to be pop, but not the pop art we already know, like the one of, I don't know, Andy Warhol, for example. Usually when you talk about pop art, it's something like that, let's say. But I want my color to be vibrant, so I usually search for some vibrant palette. But anyway, I have my palette now, so I use them, and then I go with the flow. Let's say I want to illustrate some TV shows, some singers, something that people can relate, let's say, and maybe if they, I want something that is loved by people, let's say, and something that they can appreciate, and that's it. That's my inspirations. I want people to be happy when they look at my art, let's say.
Oh, all right, that makes sense. And how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a design project?
So I start with a little brief. This brief usually, if we want to talk for because I also do editorial illustration. So when I have this little brief that usually is something that I do for myself or something that is from a client, I have these short sentences about what is the main theme of the illustration. And sometimes the client gave me an inspiration board of what the mood will be of the illustration, of what the colors they want. So I have the brief, the mood board, and then I start to sketch something. Usually it's like 2 or 3 little sketches, so I can have little so I can choose in between these 3 instead of start to sketch like 10 or 15 ideas. So I choose one of them, and then I start to draw. In the first 1 or 2 hours, I make the digital sketch or the digital base, not the sketch anymore. And then I go with the colors, starting with the flat layers, with the flat colors, and then start shading everything. And when I have a base of the illustration as I want it to be, I send that to the client if I have to work for a client, so they can say, yeah, it's good. No, it's not good. We can change it. But if it's ready for me, if it's the illustration is for me to publish it in the web, I really like that in the first as the first result. So I usually don't change anything later. If for me the illustration is done, it's done. So
All right, and I've kind of took a look at your Instagram profile, and I think like the general trend I'm kind of finding about this between all of your works is how abstract the colors are, and like it's in a really good way, like in an eye-pleasing kind of way, as you said. Like their colors have this sort of harmonious synergy to them. And just wondering, where do you usually, I mean, you mentioned before, but where do you usually find your inspiration for colors, or just the usual references from your works?
Maybe it's I don't know. I go to Pinterest, let's and I start to search for things that I already seen in my life or on the internet. So, for example, where I came from, I'm from the countryside of the south of Italy. So here we have a lot of blue, a lot of green, a lot of yellow and white. So if you have to represent something from this part of Italy, you choose these 4 colors. So it's in my mind always this thing that my palette needs to have 4 or 5 colors, no more. So in my mind is like, okay, I need to have a light color, and then everything comes with the with what I want to do. If I want to represent something that maybe about it's about angry people, it's about fear, I will use more darker colors. So I will search for more darker color about purple, blue. I never want to use the black, the pure black, because when you try to mix it with other colors, it's really it's not that good for my style, let's say. And then if I want to represent something that is more about sunshine, happiness, and so on, I go with the light colors, but not the pure yellow. I always want to have more, yes, vibrant, yes, colorful colors, but more on the flat scale of the Pantone, let's say. So it depends on how I feel, how I want to portray something. How I want to make my illustration that I have in my mind to pop out in the screen, because my illustration 90% of the times are on the, you can see them on cell phone, on computer, so you never see them printed. So there is difference between the visual part and the printed part of the illustrations. So if I want that to be to pop out when you are searching on your Instagram, I need to have certain colors, and those certain colors right now are in my palette, because I have a file on my computer with all the colors I found out in different images on Pinterest, in different pictures, in different brand identity design I found on the internet. I take the colors and make my palette, so I know that those colors will be my colors, and I can represent what I feel, what I want to give to people with my colors. So it's something I take one color of a different part and then to bring in my palette.
All right, and by the way, one interesting fact is the way I found your page was through one of the your illustrations that was shared by one of the I don't remember the page, but it's like a very famous page that shares like other people's illustrations and logos, and there was this illustration of Beth Harmon you drew, which is also available on your Etsy shop in case anyone wanted to check that out. Could you please explain a bit about the whole process of drawing this and how the concept came to be of like the chess pieces and the peels? Like, I mean, if anyone watched the show knows the references of it, but I wanted to know how, like, before this iteration of the drawing did you have any other ideas of what it should have been?
I think you found the illustration on Behance, maybe. It's the site when it's the site related to Adobe. So it's like a big portfolio of artists. Maybe you find that on that site. So I binge watched that TV show about the Queen's Gambit, and I fell in love with the main character. And I said, okay, it's time to make an illustration about Beth. And I started to draw like the main picture of the panel with the name the Queen's Gambit that you see everywhere. There is her and the chess table. And I started to draw that part, and I was like, meh, I'm not liking how it's coming out. It's the same as all the fan art I'm seeing online. And I wanted to give something different, something that is more on my spectrum as I see the things. So I started to recall what are the main objects, the main feelings of the TV shows. And and in my mind, the first things that came were the pills and the chess. I mean, it's the Queen's Gambit. So, and I said, okay, how we can introduce in this composition the chess and the pills without making it boring, without making it like it's done by all the artists in the world. I mean, it's not an original idea of mine. I mean, maybe other people thought about something like that, but I really wanted to make it personal. So I started to draw pills and the chess pieces. And in a first prompt of this illustration, I also included some little bottles of alcohol, but it was too much maybe, so I erased them. And then I started to think about the palette, And Beth is a ginger girl, so the orange was the first choice. But I wanted it to be only personal for Beth, so it's the only orange part in the illustration. And then for the others, I took inspiration of a dress she wore in the show, and I wanted to have color that remind you the years of the TV show where it was original planet. So it's something that came up working on the illustration. The idea that I wanted to recall the I think 70s more or less were the years of the show. So you can see those green, those brown. It's something that came on my mind while working on it. Yes.
All right, and who are your favorite artists and designers that have inspired the most?
Oh, that's a really interesting idea. Question. Sorry. So, as an architect, I always thought about my inspirations in the architecture field. And when I started to draw illustrations and to be more in the field of illustration, I always every day I'm looking for inspirations. I'm looking for people to follow to see how the illustration field is moving on day by day. I find a lot of illustrators, a lot of designers, and I don't find one that is like, okay, this is my main favorite illustrator, this is my favorite graphic designer. Because for me, everyone is an inspiration, everyone has something that I can take inspiration from. So if I see an illustrator that I like, for me that one is already my favorite illustrator because he's giving me something that I appreciate about him. And it's not like the architecture field when you're like, okay, that one is my favorite architect, that one is my favorite landscape architect. For me, the illustration, since I don't know a lot about the most important illustrators, the most important graphic designer, for me, everything is an inspiration. For me, everyone can give me something to look up to, and so I don't have a favorite one.
All right, that makes sense. I mean, usually for artists, there's like a multitude of people, and not just people, like concepts, and like anything could inspire an artist. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of understandable how usually this question people kind of find it hard to answer. Like, favorite is like really, it's a hard thing to actually answer. But what the good thing about this question is when you ask it to someone, I want to hear the first thing that pops into their head. Like, that's still, something interesting to know. And what is the main subject of your artworks that made them interesting to you?
The main subject. I started my career in the illustration field by illustrating songs. Every song I listen to on a daily basis, I wanted to illustrate that, and it's difficult because sometimes you don't know what the artist is wanted to say in the songs. So I started with that. Then I changed it because I couldn't do that anymore to imagine what to try to understand what the singer wanted to say in its song. So I moved on and I started to illustrate the singers instead, or the bands, the Italian indie bands. Because there is this particular movement group of illustrators here in Italy that illustrate only things related to the Italian indie music. And I wanted to be part of this movement like 2 years ago, I think. And then again, I wanted to change. So the main theme of my illustrator right now, I think, is the nerd culture, maybe, or at least I want to have something about the nerd culture in my portfolio, because I want to illustrate a lot of TV shows. I mean, I have a list of TV shows and films, so I want to be that illustrator that when you like a show, you are sure that going on his page, you're finding something about the TV show you're liking. And maybe do something like that with the music, because I don't want to move from music as a particular part in my in my journey, let's say. So I don't want to move away from the music, but I'm trying to have my theme to be music and pop culture, nerd culture, something like that. And then maybe move, because let's say I don't want to do the architect anymore, because it's not a good field here in Italy to be an architect, to work as an architect. So I wanted to make the illustrator part my day job. And the things is to want to work as illustrator, you need to do editorial illustrations. So it's something that you should think about, because it's really difficult, but it's also challenging to do the editorial illustrator. So for now, my main aim is to represent, to illustrate TV shows, films, music, and then to move in and start to study how I can do editorial illustrations.
All right, and how to simplify the start of the learning process for beginners? And by learning process, I mean learning process of drawing and basically visual arts in general, in your opinion.
To simplify that, as I said before, since I have memory, I always had a pen in my hand to draw things. So for me, there is no day that I have without a pen in my hand, without drawing something, even on a piece of paper forgotten in I don't know where in my house. There is something I draw on that one. But to simplify for me, if you want to draw, you start to draw and draw anything you have in mind. From when you are on the phone, you start to draw little circles. You start to do little circles, and then you add maybe a face in these circles, and then from the face you move on, and then you draw the body, and you draw. If you want to move forward this field, you should sketch a lot, draw a lot, and take a lot of inspiration from the people online, to search for something that you want to represent, to draw, and have practice. For me, it's the only thing. You start to draw, and then when you're feeling that you're ready to present yourself to the world, you create your portfolio online, reach to other illustrators, so you can have a community that can help you, can support you, and moving, and you start to publish your work. No one will know that you're good at drawing, that you want to draw, that you want to be in this field, if you don't have a portfolio, if you don't have an online audience, if you don't have if you're not presenting yourself to the world. So you need to prepare yourself this little package about social media presence, about your portfolio, about your presentation to the world, and then you can start to work and have your community. But yes, if you want to be in the illustration field or in the design, the visual art field, you should start to practice a lot.
All right, and next question: any advice and tips for a good portfolio and resume for an artist?
Okay, so right now I have like 3 portfolio for 3 different fields of working fields. So I'm pretty good right now at doing portfolio, maybe. So in my mind, if you have to do a portfolio, you need to put in there, like, let's say 5 or 6 important projects that you did, and not all the projects you did, all the illustration you did, like the ones that for you are the one that most represent what you are as a person and what you want to be your career. If you want to work for the editorial, let's say editorial part of the editorial illustrations part, you put inside what the works when the works where you are showing that you're good at represent feelings, at represent words of other people, so it's not something that you had in your mind. If you want to work in the music industry, you put, for example, as in my case, you can put a lot of singers. So if you draw singers, you can put that part. But not for me, it's to put all your illustrations that you did since the beginning. It's useless. I mean, people could see that you had this changing style since the beginning, that maybe now you're good, now you can illustrate things, but it's useless because no one will look at 60 pages of illustrations. So you put your most important illustrations, maybe the one that you like more, and to make personal, let's say, because a lot of people take this basic layout, and if you are an illustrator, maybe also you're good in graphic design, maybe you are also knowing how to use other programs, so you can do your portfolio also in your style, because when you are talking to someone, to a client, maybe sometimes they can ask you also other things about the graphic design part of a project, not only the illustration one. So it's also good for you to design your portfolio since the layout of the one, and to have a really nice curriculum vitae when you are explaining what you have done in the field you're looking up to work in, and maybe a motivational letter, because sometimes for the illustrator you don't have this the motivational presentation. But I think it's important because people can read what you're good about, what are you thinking about, what you want to do in the job you're requiring to work in. So I think it's important also to have that letter in your portfolio.
All right. And what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it?
Right now, I'm working on some commissions that I had before Christmas. So I'm still working on that ones that are, I think, gifts for people that are working in the music industry. So this guy called me and said I need to have those gifts to give to those people. And he started to say that maybe we can collaborate in future when after the coronavirus, when the concert can come back, we can start to think about working in the musical field to have something on the merch part or for artists or for the background scene. So he said, okay, you can start to work on those gifts for those people, and then later we can talk about merch design and background scenes. So right now I'm working, those are like 5 or 6 portraits of Italian singers, and I think they will be exposed in an exhibition in the agency is giving those gifts to. So I'm working on the music industry part right now, and then I have a lot of illustration in my mind about, as I said before, TV shows and films, nerdy stuff, because I want to have more presence online in the next year. So I wanted to start to publish at least 1 or 2 times a week. So I'm starting right now to work also on that, and let's see how how it will go in the future.
All right. And what area beside the area you're working on right now are you interested to explore and learn, given if you had enough time and energy for it? Like, what I mean by that is, right now you're working as an illustrator and visual artist, all right? Now, if you had enough free time and energy and, everything is like available, what a skill or craft would you be interested to explore in the future if those conditions were met?
I wanted to learn how to make my illustrations 3D and to do animation. Because right now I know how to do 3D for my architectural field, but I want to make my illustration 3D to have a model of something that I draw in 3D. And also I wanted to animate the drawings. For me, I think when I will learn how to animate things, it will be a changing point for my style, for my career. Because right now with the digital, you have a lot of gifs, a lot of animation like everywhere. So I think it will be nice to learn how to animate things.
All right. And with all that being said and done, to conclude all we discussed, give us a roadmap for someone who is zero in visual arts and wants to get to the place you are in terms of skill set, like where to start, best tools, softwares, books, courses, anything you could, just save a roadmap for someone who's a
Okay,
beginner.
so for a beginner, if you want to be a digital artist, you need a software to draw. I use Photoshop, and for me, Photoshop is the best you can have. But I never tried other software programs. So maybe if you don't have money to have your Adobe subscriptions, you can download other graphic software for the drawings. But I think you can find that online. So you start with your software, and you can buy a tablet, a digital tablet. For me, Wacom is the best. I don't know if I can say them, but Wacom is the best. So and also you can find cheapest model of Wacom tablet. So that one, and then you start to draw. If you want to learn something, as I can see right now, there are a lot of digital platform where there are a lot of courses about illustrations. I tried one on Skillshare, I think. Yes, it was Skillshare, and they are pretty good. You can learn a lot of things. So you can search for those online courses where you pay maybe a subscriptions for a year or for some months, and you can follow some courses on that. I think there is also Domestika, that is a Spanish platform for courses, and then I mean there are a lot of them, so you can search it for them. And when you have your if you want to follow a course, of course, because if you don't want, you can start to draw to have your style by looking at inspirations on Pinterest, Behance, on Instagram. You can have your folders on your computer with all these illustrators, with all these inspirations, and to take a bit of style from each one you're looking at. And then when you have all of these little pieces and you mix them together, you will have your style. And when you have your style, you can now maybe have a course about what you want to learn more about this illustration field, this graphic design field, and then try to practice, work, and it's always a learning process. Even when you are at your top, you are still learning. You are still following lectures. You are still following courses. You are still learning new materials to work with, new styles, new everything new. So it's something in process. But you need to start with a graphic program, with a graphic tablet, and then go with what you want to do. It's up to you. You need to search for what is in your mind, what you want to do, and learn.
All right, I think that's about it for a roadmap for someone who wants to be a digital artist. And we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you everyone for tuning by and listening. And where can anyone get in contact with you if they had any questions or in general want to contact you?
You can search for me on Instagram, Damsia. And I'm also on Behance, Facebook. But if you go on Instagram, you can start from that to search me everywhere on the internet. There is also my email if you want to write me something, my Etsy account if you want to buy some prints, but it's everything on my Instagram page.
All right, well, I think that's about it. Have a good day, everyone, and bye.